Loader. If not one of the tankiest survivors in Risk of Rain, definitely the thonkiest. One of the easier survivors to play and one of the only 3 melee survivors in Risk of Rain 2. Loader can also be the most fun character in all of Risk of Rain 2. Granted, you know how to play her. So the structure of this guide is going to be like this. First we're going to have all the abilities and some playstyle tips, and then we are going to be going over the enemies and bosses that you want to avoid on Loader and how to deal with them. Then finally we'll wrap it up with a Loader item build / item synergy. Alright, let's get started. First up we have the Loader passive called Scrap Barrier. Scrap Barrier prevents fall damage, so even falling off the map does no damage to you, and gives the Loader barrier every time she hits enemies with her gauntlets. This is basically every attack except her special ability. Pre-barrier nerf, Scrap Barrier was one of the best abilities in the game. It's still one of the best passives in the game, but it's just a little added tankiness and some small utility. For Loader's primary, you have Knuckleboom. You swing at enemies for 320% damage. Remember, every hit grants you shield, so if you have your back at the wall, just keep swinging. Although, and this will become more apparent later on, you probably won't be doing a lot of swinging with Knuckleboom. Alright, for Loader's secondary, she has Grapple Fist and Spike Fist. The Grapple Fist sends you towards whatever you grapple to, while the Spike Fist will pull in smaller enemies towards you. The Spike Fist is just a better version of the Grapple Fist, so always go for the Spike Fist. You can use this grapple to fly around the map like a robotic Georgina of the jungle, especially in conjunction with Loader's utility skill. Which, speaking of, Loader has 2 choices of said utility skill: Charge Gauntlet and Thunder Gauntlet. Charge Gauntlet, as the name implies, needs to be charged, and Thunder Gauntlet does not, but does less damage as a result. By using Charge Gauntlet with your Grapple Fist, you can quickly zoom across the map at incredibly high speeds. This is what gives Loader her ridiculous mobility. Also, the faster you move, the more damage the Gauntlet attack will do. Velocity equals damage. As for the Loader special, the Pylon, it really isn't anything special. It zaps up to 6 enemies for 100% of Loader's damage with a 0.5 proc coefficient. If you get enough on hits, this becomes more relevant, but it still doesn't do much for Loader's overall kit. Generally, you're going to be throwing this up in the air to kill a couple annoying wisps. It's really going to be like, oh, is this still up? Boop, throw it out. Alright, let's go into playstyle tips now. In general, you will always want to be keeping your range from enemies as Loader. While it is true that you are a melee survivor, certain enemies mean certain death in close quarters. That's the next section. But what you need to know as a Loader is that you need to maintain distance during cooldowns and then use everything in a short period of time. Think of yourself as a burst survivor akin to Artificer. Speed and timing is everything on Loader, keep that in mind. Alright, here are the enemies and bosses to be careful around. Loader has basically no weakness except for one very important thing. Flame elites. Fire elites, whatever you want to call them. You might be thinking that the flame elites that are flying, so the brass contraptions and everything else that are in the air, are the worst to deal with as Loader. This is not true. The ground fire elites give you the most trouble because they usually have the largest health pool. These are the stone golems, buffalo, etc. with huge health pools and almost no safe way of killing them, because if you get in melee range, you get burned. Basically, maintain distance from them and always kill them last. For bosses, really, the only things that you'll have trouble with are magma worms and imps. Everything else is kind of like pretty much just chumps. Maybe the jellyfish will have a problem when they blow up, but other than that, you're safe on basically every other enemy as Loader. Alright, so here is my general item / build for Loader. Armor piercing rounds are super good for bursting down bosses early in the stages. Get enough of these, which is a 20% damage buff towards bosses. So get enough of these and you'll be doing a buttload of damage to early bosses so you can clear stages quickly. Crowbars help with your burst damage by dealing 150% more damage to enemies above 90% health, which you're a burst character, so this is useful. It's not that great, but it's still damage. Focus Crystal is most value on Loader for its 15% stacking damage buff when inside of melee range, and there are very few abilities / attacks that Loader can have outside of melee range. Goat Hooves are really good as they increase your movement speed passively, thereby increasing Loader's damage. ATG missile might be the best item on loader because it does damage based on total damage dealt and not base damage, meaning that if loader crits with her charged gauntlet, which is like 4000% damage, the ATG will triple that damage, which is pretty sick. Guillotine is clutch for killing pesky elites like fire elites or any other type of elites you need to kill quickly. Razor wire for all the damage you're going to end up taking regardless. And finally wax quail because I love hops, plus it's super easy to dodge titan beams with, which will come in handy later. And that is it for this guide. It was meant to be a super simple, super short guide that I can maybe expand on later. However, I'm tired as fuck, so I'm going to end it here. Peace.